I'm going to kick off the topic today with a talk called The Valley of Despair. Doesn't that sound fun? So are you ready? So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Okay, there we go. So again, welcome to conference. So I know you've seen these numbers, but they're worth repeating. Rise Above Research estimates that 1.6 trillion photos will be taken in 2023. This represents a 7.5% increase over 2022, and growth is expected to continue, driven by the popularity of smartphones. David Hodder, director and founder of Rise Above Research, concluded, photography is more popular than ever. When you consider the huge volumes of photos that are being taken every day, people are taking and sharing more photos than ever before in history, and those numbers continue to rise, driven by smartphones and sharing via text, social media, and email. Photos have become the primary means of communication. And as the number of photos have taken continue to rise, so does the number of photos that are stored. They estimate there will be close to 10 trillion photos stored worldwide in 2023 on handsets, the cloud, and storage media. Now, those numbers are almost impossible to imagine, right? Yet we know those numbers don't take into account the boxes, bins, and photo albums of analog photos, home movies on outdated media formats, kids' artwork, letters, treasured objects, newspaper articles that are all important part of family tradition. Which brings me to my keynote for today, Success Stories from the Valley of Despair. Isn't that a fun title? Why am I kicking off a conference with a talk that includes the words Valley of Despair? Well, stick with me, and I'm positive in just a moment you'll be nodding your heads in agreement. So let's get started. A month or so ago, Isabel posted a graph on our Facebook page that I hadn't heard of. It was called the Dunning-Kruger effect, and it resonated with me. And I thought, wow, I can relate to this experience, and I figured many of you could as well. The concept is quite simple. Whenever we start something new, we don't know much, and we are excited to learn and the opportunities that come with it. Now, all of you are entrepreneurs, and the message in the culture is start your own business doing what you love, and the money will follow. Many of you had left traditional jobs, or this is maybe a second act career, and I'm sure we're drawn to the idea of having the freedom to run your own business, getting empowered by watching it grow, and bringing your creativity to life. What happens is as we move along that curve of excitement, we start to hit roadblocks and we realize, wow, this is a lot harder than I thought it was. And we start telling ourselves stories such as, what was I thinking? I am not good at running a business, or this is way harder than I thought, or I'm not nearly as smart as those other professional photo managers. Look at what they talk about on that Facebook page. No one's going to pay me. Or I can't learn camera scanning, or I can't organize somebody else's digital photos. Does any of this sound familiar? What would you add to the list? You can put it in the chat. What are those stories that you start telling yourself? But as you can see by this graph, it's when we first get started, we move up the scale of confidence, fueled by excitement and passion, right? So there's new people here today, and maybe you're in that beginning stage of just passion and excitement. But then we start to realize that we're not as smart as we thought we were. Maybe a client cancels, a job is harder than you expect. Your family or friends, they love to sometimes be the naysayers. And though we keep trying, we still feel confused and overwhelmed. In this Dunning-Kruger effect, they call it Mount Stupid. Now, I found that word really offensive in a way, and I prefer we get caught up in imposter syndrome. So this is what happens when we start to feel like a fraud or a phony and we doubt our abilities. It's that voice in your head that suggests you can't do this. Maybe you should just give up and quit. Once we start into that mindset, our confidence starts to spiral and we cycle down into what's called the Valley of Despair. In spite of the old saying that if it was easy, everybody would do it. So now we've heard all the statistics, right? 20% of all new businesses fail in their first year. And by 10 years, over 65% have failed. I think that happens when people hit the Valley of Despair. People sometimes just don't make it out. They give up and go back to what was more comfortable and normal. But there's good news. The Valley of Despair, first of all, doesn't last forever. And today I'm going to share some real life stories of how your peers manage their Valley of Despair moments and strategies to use when you notice that small voice in your head telling you that maybe this is too hard, You're not smart enough, or nobody will hire you. Ideally, you'll begin to implement these ideas this week during the conference. You'll be able to chat with members during these networking meetings and ask, have you had these experience? And you can use this as a framework for the future. In fact, so definitely take time once we get through this to talk to people in some of those networking sessions about your experience. Sometimes even being at a conference can put you in a valley of despair, right? If you start looking around and comparing yourselves to others. And then last of all, I'm going to conclude today's talk with an announcement. We've been sharing some in emails and things, but I just want to do a little bit more in-depth description of what's called peace of mind tech support, because we feel that it could be a great option for you if you're experiencing technology anxiety. So let's read a few members to learn about their valley of despair experiences. When I spoke with Peter Bennett, who many of you know, he's one of our speakers and trusted instructors many times. He said right off the bat, oh my gosh, I can remember right away when I was in a deep valley of despair. He said it was 2012. I was a single father after a divorce. My stock photography business had closed due to economic downturn. I wasn't living in my house and I was selling real estate, which I absolutely hated. Then one day he said he spoke to Cheryl DeFrank, who I knew from my past business. We were both in stock photography, and she told me about her business as a professional photo organizer. So I wanted to stop here for a minute. Last year, we had our first Rising Tide Award, and we'll be doing that again Saturday. That's an award where our peers nominate the members who they feel best represent our core philosophy that a rising tide lifts all boats. And Cheryl and Peter both earned that award last year, and I didn't even know that they knew each other, but they did from past lives. Anyway, from that conversation, Peter remembered a similar concept he had pitched 3 years earlier about the need for photo management services. He had seen the future, but he had gotten sidetracked by real estate and life and had forgotten. So when he told me, he joined full of confidence. This is going to be super easy, he thought. And at first it was, he said, until it wasn't. Oh my God, there's so much I don't know. And his girlfriend, who's now his fiance, said, you really think people are going to pay you for this? Yet over time, as he got more and more clients and continued to make mistakes, he also found solutions. He started to remember one of his greatest skills. He's always had a willingness to learn and be a problem solver. Peter shifted from saying that this is hard to I have confidence in my ability to learn. I know how to be a problem solver. So if I come across a complex project, I will maybe make mistakes, but I will learn from them and continue to grow. So I also checked in with Casey, who many of you know is Miss Freddie, about her valley of spare moments. And she said, oh, that's so easy. When I decided to switch from being a family photographer to a photo organizer, I figured I'd set my price at $400 because it's so easy for me. I'd always organized my own photos, and I was scared that even $400 was a lot. But I had no idea how complex it could be or how many variables or surprises each client project can contain. It became clear to me on a weekend when I realized I was charging the same for a client with 10 external hard drives as a client with one iPhone and a computer. As she spent hours on the project, Casey said, I realized I had blinders on based on what I thought someone would pay for my services and just how different each project could be. She had priced her services on what she knew when she started, but then she took a different approach and changed her pricing despite that little voice in her head that was saying, what if my business collapses and no one thinks there's any value in what I'm providing? Casey has also learned to tame her imposter syndrome voice when she runs into situations, a project that she doesn't know the answer to. She just reminds herself that she always knows more than her client, takes a deep breath, and says to them, let me just do some more research on that. She knows her clients are thrilled that she's the one figuring it out, not them. As she's moved across that curve to increasing competency, it's because she knows she's capable of finding answers. She's also learned not to compare herself with others and use this great example. Learning is like chapters in a book. You can only start where you start. You can't get to chapter 10 without going through chapters 1 through 9. So let's stop here and look at the ways both Casey and Peter managed their valley experienced. They both understood that the way forward was to learn from what happened. There's another common saying that really applies to our work. You're only as far as you've ever been. You must keep growing and learning, and none of us can learn everything. You need to get that from other people, and having a community around you of other people is critical. Ongoing learning can only happen in community, as you try to survive and thrive. You need to put yourself in situations with people in similar situations. That's why this community and a virtual conference like this is so very important. Each person, each of you in this room right now, bring different experiences, skills, and can help point a way forward to somebody else. Each teacher that's going to be teaching at these breakouts over this weekend were not subject matter experts on their topics without spending considerable time trying and failing and learning and repeating the cycle over and over again. And there's that old saying too, the best way to learn something is to choose to be the teacher. When we put out call for speakers, it's okay to decide, you know what, I can probably apply to speak and I'll learn that. You'll be the better learner because you'll be learning it as you teach it, right? So remember, one of the ways out of the valley is a commitment to learning. Now let's look at 2 more examples. I asked Robert Marks, who's the CEO and founder of Project App. You'll learn a lot more about him in a few minutes shortly. And a lot of people know already, they're very excited about his product. In his previous life, Robert had a very successful 32-year in the B2B environment. He said he could sell large cybersecurity packages and networking packages to big companies and always be a hero with a team to back him up. A few years ago, he happily retired and went on to teach entrepreneurship at a local university when he realized there had to be a better way to view his family home movies. He shared, I wasn't necessarily looking to get back into the fray, but he knew he wanted to create something for his family and friends, and that began his journey back into the peaks and valleys of despair. He said he moved quickly from excitement and passion to a realization that I didn't know what I didn't know, including that the B2C market was completely different than the B2B, just how complex app development was, since no one had created an app that required the customer to actually upload material to be streamed, and how naive he was in this space. He said his valley of despair, though, often just happens in his own mind, and that quitting has never been an option, but he goes back to his work ethic that has helped him always be successful in the past. A lot of hard work, creativity, and more hard work. Robert's advice to find a better way is if what you are doing isn't working, and that takes creativity, a willingness to keep trying to find new answers and better ways to move forward. I also spoke with Stephanie Heller, owner of Archivist. She immediately said the graph describes her journey. In 2018, she attended the Raleigh conference as a non-member and joined immediately thinking, I got this. I started successful businesses in the past. I can get customers easily. She had a waiting list already, and this is the work I want to do. And she was right about getting customers. She immediately got a huge job. Mount Sinai Medical Center in Miami asked her to scan an entire warehouse consisting of every photo, news clipping, and document since the hospital's founding in 1946. It took her over a year because she was brand new. She bought 3 scanners and hired a team of 10 interns from her son's high school. After that, a year and a half of that, she said she was drowning. She was doing everything alone, and she was just in a solitary experience. She started to realize that she could not operate in a silo, and she needed to learn from others who had paved the way ahead of her. Because even though she thought she knew how to run a successful business, this was different. So she began her journey out of the valley of despair by reaching out to other photo managers. She said yes to the masterclass and is now moving from being overwhelmed to having increasing competency. So that brings me to a second way to move through the valley of despair. We all need encouragement. It's not lonely at the top unless you don't reach out. It's important to hang with people swimming in the water you are in and then celebrate your successes. The stories we often tell ourselves about being an entrepreneur that focuses on risk taking, following a passion, being brave. But the truth is, as an entrepreneur, you're really a leader of your own business. And as a leader, you simply can't reach your goals unless you're willing to trust in others to help you get there. That again means your peers, mentors, colleagues, employees, friends, family. We all need a community to be successful. I also want to point out that in each of these conversations, everybody talked about the work being more complex than they expected. I think that when it comes to learning and mastering a complex topic, there is no such thing as a one-time learning curve. So this is much more, I think, a much better picture of what we're experiencing. You don't just move on that single Dunning-Kruger curve one time, but you can be on that curve all sorts of different times at all different points, at all different speeds, right, of your business. Maybe, you've been in business here for 5 years and you're no longer in the valley of despair about scanning huge numbers of clients' photos using a camera scan. But maybe now, so you're moving well onto your plateau of sustainability, but maybe you got a new project that just came in and somebody's, is using it, has their photos, they want them out of their iCloud library, and you work on an Android, right? So suddenly you can start feeling, oh no, I got to go right back into that learning curve. And actually, a lot of the topics we talk about, what's happening with AI, the way the world is, I feel like, the world is just changing at such a fast pace that all of us as humans at some level are going through these cycles just because we're living and breathing on this planet. So Rachel talks about that, those different curves for herself. She owns 2,000 paces. Her passion for her business began when she was standing at the bottom of her street in San Diego, terrified her house was going to burn down. 2 years later, she left the corporate world and has been working 10 times, she said, harder ever since. Over time, she realized even though she had a passion, there was no blueprint on how to grow a successful photo organizing. She was one of the early pioneers, right? She said she's progressed through those curves, going from a solo entrepreneur to managing a team of employees to really now digging deep into understanding her KPIs. The good news is that you move through all those phases, you learn to proceed with caution, not getting overly confident and then utterly devastated every single time. She said, some days there are easy wins and that boosts my confidence, and some days there's roadblocks that make me doubt my ability. If a topic is difficult enough to grasp, there'll be a crash somewhere that you feel like nothing makes sense anymore and you just want to drop everything and walk away beaten. And as well as we all know, there can be several such waves through the learning path. So it isn't like you have to push through once and then say you're safe. But this is a pattern you can use. By being aware of the Dunning-Kruger effect and honestly reflecting on which phase you're in, you can use it as a self-help tool to track your progress and for reality checks. This is especially important in the valley of despair. As you just about hit rock bottom and are ready to quit, suddenly the goal might be right in sight. Time to remind yourself that what you're experiencing is not a sign that you're ill-suited for the task. It's just that you already know enough to see how much you still need to know. And you just need a confidence boot, a small win, take a break, maybe bring in some outside perspective and get back on track. Okay, last of all, it wouldn't be fair if I didn't share a few of my own valley of despair moments, of which there have been many. But just like everyone I spoke with, I never really thought about quitting. I have felt discouraged and I have felt a lot of fear. 3 years ago, when the world shut down and we had to cancel the in-person Atlanta conference, there was a moment of deep despair. The hotel was not willing to give me back my deposit. I was unable to refund everyone's registration, and I was beating myself up that I wasn't good with money, budgets, contingency plans. But I remember then on that plane home, lonely plane ride home, I think it was one of the last people leaving the Atlanta airport, that I was going to find a way to put on an incredible virtual conference. Failure wasn't an option. I was going to deliver value to my to people who had trusted me. I put together a team of people, and I'm thrilled that Isabel and Amadeus are with us again now, each virtual conference. Yes, and Rebecca Isabel, who wasn't working for me at the time, she had been just doing some contracting work. Kate Jacobs joined us for that. And we got on a little Zoom call and we said, let's figure this out. And that's exactly what we did. I watched lots of training videos on hosting online events, investing in programs that were more fun, like Remo. It's a whole different cost level and things, but we were one of the early adopters to Remo, which we still love for this kind of experience. And now it's just part of what we do. I told everybody this morning that I had butterflies in my stomach and my palms sweat a little bit and I didn't sleep as good last night. No matter how many times you do these things, you're always like, oh, what's going to happen? But it's still, but I got through that valley of despair, and now I'm fully confident that we can deliver an amazing experience for everybody. So I use those strategies that I see the other speakers use. I set out to learn, I got encouragement, and I did it with community. So again, this weekend, I want you to encourage you to share with one another how you manage those moments when your confidence wavers. So now this brings me to an exciting announcement that we've kind of given some input about, but we know how scary it can be when you work with your clients' photos and videos. They've put your trust in you and they expect you to be the expert, but nobody can be the expert at all time. Technology changes, you encounter unknown media formats, or sometimes you encounter issues without explanation. I actually have a new camera that I bought after everybody told me my camera looked terrible yesterday. And it took me a good half an hour, 45 minutes to get all the settings right and to remember how to make this camera work. I mean, it's just, technology just is a pain. So every day I read the questions on our members only Facebook page. It's an amazing window in the work you do all day, in and out, and the number of things that come up. Often within minutes, someone replies. This is what makes this community so amazing. It's like having a 24-hour volunteer tech support community. Over the years, I've watched these questions increase in complexity, and technology keeps changing. Some of our new members get really intimidated, and we sometimes encourage them to stay away from the new members, for the members Facebook page for a while, because they might think, oh, this is so much harder than I thought. Yet at the heart of what we do, remember, is to promise to our customer that you're going to solve their problems for them, because you're going to take the time to figure it out, and you know where to get help. So as our member community has grown, I've thought a lot about what a next level of support could look like, and I realize having some professional tech support to help is high on the list. So we've partnered with a trusted company, Surround Us Services, to provide you with peace of mind tech support. Here's an example of some of the problems that you might run into. I can't sync my client's photos from my client's phone. And I'm in the middle of a scanning project and my scanner stops work. I've been in Lightroom and all my work disappeared, right? So the timing of this was perfect for Jordan of Surround Us, because she's been growing her business to provide tech supports to companies such as Milo's and others. So she's becoming more of a software as a solution focus, but she has had a team of people doing photo organizing as a member for many years. The way that it works is that it's going to be just $50 a year to enroll. Then when you have a situation in which you need support, you can log into a dedicated portal and create a support ticket, either by email or you can call. You'll be billed in 15-minute increments. So it's $49 an hour for email, $135 an hour for phone support. And not to get into the detail of all that today, but that's to give you an idea. Here's a list of all the things that they support. And again, you'll see there's quite a few things here on the list. And if you have more questions, you can reach out. And if you're interested, so again, this is just an add-on to membership. It's not required. We're not getting rid of the Facebook group. It's something that I think some people may not even take advantage of until you really need it. But we do have a sign up. There's a place you go on our website to sign up. You have to create a customer profile so that when you have a ticket, they know who you are and that you're a member, because the normal cost of this, I think, is $3.99 a month. She has a huge number of people, consumers and DIYers who use her tech support, but she has significantly underpriced it for us. So they need to make sure that you're a member, and this is how they do that when you fill out this information.